Hi y'all, today we're going to be talking about the NSO Carbine Directive. And this directive is difficult. There's some weapons in here that are really good, like the CBX-75, and there's some that are really shit, like the CB-100 and the Tanto. And because it's an NSO directive, you have very little choice here. In fact, unless you're willing to buy the black 11C and the gold 11C, you can't skip a single gun here. So, we're going to talk about all the guns available, but I'm basically going to say, if you can, this is the one you skip. But other than that, I'll just give you know what I recommend for all of these guns, and tell you what I think of the Newton. It doesn't have its own review yet, that will come eventually. But I do have individual reviews on every other gun in this list, so if you want to know more about something, just go watch one of those. So, in total, you have 5 weapons to pick from. The 11C, the CB100, the X75, the CB200, and the Tanto. And you need 5 axioms. So, like I said, unless you're willing to pick up the black or gold 11C, you're screwed. Use all of these 5 carbines. So, we're going to go through all of them, and I'll tell you what I think, what I recommend, how to play them. You know, how we usually do these overview videos. Starting with the CB100, your freebie starter carbine. It is the big mid. It's kind of shit, honestly. It feels weird. So it's a 714 at 143 carbine with a relatively small magazine size at 25 rounds, and it's just kind of weird. I never quite got the recoil for this thing down, and I ended up finding that a weird mix of a close quarters long range build worked best. I chose to run a 2X, but I also chose to run a short barrel, a laser, and high velocity. Now, this is a weird combo, but I found that running high velocity gave me enough to pick at mid-range, and I found the laser sight and short barrel helped at close range. But on the whole, it's a very weird carbine, and honestly, this is a very justifiable skip in my opinion. It doesn't feel good to use. I would definitely Araxium it. Like, I wouldn't say skip it, but if you really hate it, I honestly understand if you want to skip this one. It just feels weird. It never felt good, and it never felt nice. It felt like I was always dealing with some shitty part of the gun, no matter what. So, it's okay, it's your freebie, you may as well Arax it, but honestly, if you're gonna skip it, it's pretty understandable. The CB200. Now, I don't think this gun is a skip at all. In fact, I think the 200 is relatively good for what it is. I actually had a pretty quick Araxium on it, too. It's a 577 to 167 carbine, and it feels good on the whole, but it has some catches to it. So, the biggest thing about the 200 is its colossal 15-meter 167 range, and you can expand that out a little bit further with soft point 220, and this is quite frankly ridiculous for a carbine. You get 20-meter 3-shot kills, and your 4 headshot kills at all ranges because you only drop down to 125. So, the CB200 feels good if you have good aim. The recoil is still a little weird, just like the CB100, but on the whole, it feels really good to use. I ended up rocking a 1X, a short barrel, a forward grip, and, as mentioned, soft point. Now, it's probably going to sound weird that I went for the 1X over a 2, especially for a ranged carbine, but it does shine in close range. I would say it's more of a headshot killer in close range than an actual long-range carbine. Despite being 167 dropping to 125, it doesn't feel good at long range, even taking, say, a compensator and the grip, because the recoil on it is just sort of weird. So I would stick to running it with a weird kind of hybrid close range, long range, or close range control build. An aim down sight close range carbine, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird, but I liked it on the whole, and if you have good aim, it's a good carbine. Just don't try and make it work at ranges longer than it can't, because it falls off pretty hard, even if the damage model itself is good. Moving on to the X75, this is the true shine here. This gun cannot be skipped in any sense of the word. It is fucking incredible. It's an 800 at 143 carbine, which is good. It's got 15 meters of 143 range, which is good, especially for this damage model. For comparison, most other carbines with this 800 143 usually fall at like 10. So that's good. Not to mention you get soft point as well, so it's effective 20 meters. Your reload speed is pretty quick. And the most notable thing is this thing has .75 ADS, which most other 800 143 carbines do not. And the recoil on it isn't even bad. It feels really good. And having .75 on such a fast-killing carbine is fun. It's a lot of fun to use. I ended up rocking a 1X on it with the short barrel, the laser, and soft point. It's not a long-range carbine, don't bother picking high velocity. And you could go for recoil control with the grip, but it still shreds while hip firing. It's great. It's a really, really good carbine. This thing cannot be skipped. It's excellent, and honestly far and away the best carbine on the faction. And I would actually make the argument that it's one of the best carbines in the game. It's really, really good. Moving on to the 11C, which will also double as your skip options via the black and gold ones. The 11C is okay. It's a 652 at 143 carbine, which is low, very low, but your reload speed is good, you have a bigger than average magazine size, and it's comfortable. It's actually just a really, really comfortable carbine to use. It doesn't kick hard, it's got a decent damage model despite its low fire rate, and it's just nice to use. I ended up rocking a 1X. You could slot in a comp, a short barrel here. It's honestly however you want to set the thing up. The laser is nice to use if you want to try and make it work a bit more in close quarters, and I would lean towards soft point over high velocity as you only drop 2 damage models. You could totally set this up as a long-range carbine and go, say, high-velocity grip comp and try and use it as an aim-down sights weapon, or you could just go, say, laser and short barrel. It's good no matter what you want. Do note that I believe I axiomed the 11C before the NS overhaul happened, and that's why I haven't used any of the newer attachments on it, but it's good. For comparison's sake, the C Platinum that I've been using more recently, I went for a short barrel and a grip-on. Still, build it the way you want to build it, but it's comfortable. It's a very comfortable carbine. It's not excellent by any means, but, you know, if you want to skip, you better like it. So, the Tanto. The Tanto is, in my opinion, the shittiest carbine of the whole list. However, it should not be skipped either, because the Tanto has double overlap, meaning that it counts for the Carbine Directive and for the NSX Weapons Directive. And having an Araxium count for 2 directives is really, really hard to pass up, even if you hate the thing. I hate the thing. I Araxium 2 of them. Trust me, I hate the Tanto. It's weird. The whole gimmick of it is that you get 0 cone of fire, but you have absolutely shit DPM. Your bloom per shot is pretty shit too. I ended up running a weird 1X short barrel angled high velocity build, just to try and maximize weird hybrid build. You don't have a laser available, so that's why I'd go with the angled grip, because it's good for short bursting, which you'll have to do because your bloom is garbage. The short barrel helps reduce the absolutely garbage bloom, and you don't have a compensator available. And whether you want to go high velocity or soft point, it's really up to you. I got a little bit better out of high velocity, but honestly, the Tanto does not feel good to use. It's, in my opinion, the shittiest carbine, but I still would not skip it. Of them all, I would still skip the 100. And then if you don't care about, say, the NSX Weapons Directive, which just gives you the Kabuto anyway, just skip the Tanto. The Newton itself. Now, I have not used the Newton very much. I will freely admit I have not used it very much. However, I don't really like it. This thing will get its own review eventually when I use it more, but consider this in initial impressions, it's kind of weird. So it doesn't have a true aim down sights, so it feels like garbage at range. You don't have access to a vertical grip either, which makes it also feel shit at range. And ever since it lost unstable ammo, which was the right move, by the way, it doesn't feel very accurate. It just kind of feels weird. It's okay at what it does, but it feels weird. It's an interesting concept. I'll need to play with it more. But ever since it got nerfed, it's not nearly as necessary of a unlock as it used to be. Think of it as CB100 that can't aim down sights, but has a little bit more attachment options like the impulse launcher that is fairly fun to use. Still, it's just okay. I wouldn't call it an urgent unlock by any means. And the Carbine banner looks okay if you're into that sort of thing. So on the whole, it's a decent directive. It's really just let down by the fact that the Newton isn't nearly as good as it used to be. In fact, I would argue now it's just kind of eh. I'd probably put it performance-wise just under the CP200, maybe just above the 11C and the Tanto. And the X75 is still far and away the best carbine. Like, if you just want to rock a carbine, just use the X75. Unless you really, really want the shiny Newton. It's not a necessary directive anymore. It used to be fucking broken, don't get me wrong. But ever since it got nerfed, it's not really an urgent unlock anymore. It's still decent, don't get me wrong. It just... I don't think this is a directive you need to rush to complete. Sorry for the lack of content lately. I've not been playing PlanetSide, and in general have been mostly doing single-player stuff, and I will try and get back to making stuff soon. I do have a full-time job now, so sorry about that. See you all again another time. Bye.